According to McKinsey and other sources, 43% of women leaders are experiencing burnout, and the reported prevalence is higher than men in leadership roles. So in this episode, I'm joined by my communication strategist, Angelique Binet. We're talking to you about what you can do to change that path and avoid that journey through to burnout. We talked about why it's so prevalent in women leaders, and I shared 2 things that you can do today to reduce that heavy load. Let's get started, shall we? Well, hello, all you beautiful people, and welcome to Project Joyful, the podcast for health-centered leaders. I'm your host, Tracy Tutty, your medical herbalist, neuro-identity evolution practitioner, and high-performance coach. So hey, Project Joyful isn't just about being happy. It's about consciously creating a life you love. It's about remembering how to reconnect with your soul-centered joy. You know, that joy that comes from doing what you love, from living on purpose, and from being in a life that allows you to experience deep joy, moment by moment. It's also about bringing that joy into your workplace and using your skills as a health-centered leader to heal your team. So let's get started, shall we? I read this stat today. It said 43% of women leaders are experiencing burnout. And do you know what? It's more than men. I was sad when I read that, and I was also not surprised. So today I'm talking to you about what you can do to take back that path and avoid that journey through to burnout. So today I'm joined by my communication specialist, Angelique Binet. Hi, Angelique. And we're going to have a little conversation around women leaders and what we can do to avoid burnout.
Yes. And so thank you for having me for this conversation. Maybe Tracy, before you introduce yourself, I would love to hear from you because of all the experiences you have. You know, what is the top 3 mistakes that you see all the time or a pattern among women leaders when before they hit that wall? What is the thing that, yeah.
Yeah, I love this question because I'm going to answer it from 2 places. First of all, what I see with my clients, but also I was a slow learner. So it's also about what I was doing and what led me to experiencing burnout and coming out the other side into this health-centered leadership that we're doing right now. So the key thing is that, as women, we are trained from an early age to take responsibility for everything. You know, we often learn, in order for me to be okay, everyone around me has to be okay. And we take that through our growing up time, we take it into our families, and we also take it into the workplace. The other thing that I notice a lot, and it's definitely something that I had to learn myself, is about the sense of self-worth. You know, I was having a conversation just yesterday with someone, and we were talking about pay raises, actually. You know, how to have that conversation when you know you're worth more and the pay rise isn't quite like matching that. And she said to me, you know, I was brought up in an era where we just took what we were given. You got a pay rise and you said, thank you very much. So there's also this element of self-worth and feeling worth it, which makes us want to work harder, do more in order to prove that we are worth having in the space that we're having, which is crazy because the reason why you're in the space you're in is because your team needs you.
I love this. And so what is your motto, Tracy? What is one thing you want to tell us?
I'm going to tell you something which is actually it feels very counterintuitive. So, you know, when we're in this space where we're like, I've got to do more, I've got to be more, I've got to put more effort in, I've got to do the grind, I've got to do the hustle, I'm just going to get over this latest thing that's got this deadline looming. I'm just going to pour more of me into it. Actually, what you get to do is the opposite of that. And that's about active recovery. It's about taking the space to just relax. Because here's what happens. Your conscious mind is still working when you're relaxing. So you're dealing with a problem and you're in there and you're trying to solve it. And instead, take a breath. Go for a walk. Don't turn on the laptop on a Sunday. Your mind's still working through it. Just because you're not actively doing something doesn't mean you're not working on a problem. So I'm strongly encouraging you to take those breaks and just give yourself that rest. And, one of the things we talk about in health-centered leadership is dialing in the best way of doing that as well, because taking a break and still thinking constantly about all the lists that you're juggling, all the people you've got to please, all the things you've got to look after, that's not a break, that's a checklist. And so one of the things that we do in the Revitalize coaching program is getting really clear on what you can do so that your body feels recovered, so that you go back into the workplace fresh, creative, focused, and energized, and your team will notice.
I love it. So, Tracy, before we deep dive into, maybe one or two shifts that you're gonna offer us today, could you tell us, your background? You bring more than 26 years or more of amazingness. Could you just give us who you are? Who is Tracy Tutty?
I'd love to. So, yes, I have over 26 years experience in the corporate environment. So I'm a chartered accountant by trade, and I've held roles from head of finance to project program management, all range of things. And I accidentally became known as the person you bring into a finance team to fix a broken finance team. And a lot of what I do now is about healing leaders so they can heal their teams. So in addition to that, I'm also a medical herbalist. So that's why I'm all about this health-centered leadership and what you can do to bring the energy back into your body, because leading a team's an Olympic sport. It requires a lot of energy. I'm a neuro-identity evolution practitioner. So what I'm doing with that is helping you to elevate your identity so that you're in the identity that best serves you and best serves your team. And I've got all range of modalities that I've collected along the way in my journey of recovering from burnout as well. So really focused on elevating that identity. I know what it's like to be in a corporate environment, and we talk about the skills to help you be more in the boardroom, be more with your team, and also how you can do that in a way that is filling you up rather than draining you. Oh, and I'm in New Zealand as well. I keep forgetting to say that I'm in the beautiful Wairapa, the home of olives and Pinot Noir.
That sounds very good. So I guess if we're talking to your audience right now, who wants exactly, because most of the women leaders who get access to those leadership roles, they've been, climbing the ladder, excited about that day when, and then, and then it happens, and then there is that resentment, that fatigue that starts to kick in, and then the forget of the dream around it, kind of, right? So
we move into level A.
Yeah. So tell us, Tracy, why we should be listening to you today.
Let me talk about that woman. And, this is the woman that I help a lot these days. It's the woman that I've been as well, and you get that role, and you get that role because actually you're amazing. And that's why you've got that role. So don't forget that. And then what happens is we see all the things around us and we're like, oh, I can fix that. I can take responsibility for that. I can do that. And you're over delivering in your role. You're loving it because you love the excitement and the thrill of the chase and fixing things and how good that feels. And you're pouring all of yourself into it. So you're working the longer hours. You may be logging in on the weekend just to catch up. And you notice that you're starting to feel a bit tired. It doesn't happen straight away. You notice that you finish the week with just a little bit less energy than when you started the week. And then, you cram all your stuff into the weekend to catch up on your life. And then you start Monday with just a little bit less energy than you did the Monday before. This goes on for a period of time, and you start to realize, actually, I'm feeling pretty tired, but doesn't everyone these days? Isn't that what leading a team is about? You feel tired. I know I thought that. I was doing a lot of travel, and I thought it was because of that. I learned that wasn't because of that. So you're starting to feel a little bit more tired. You're still pouring yourself into the role. People think that that's normal now. And so you're starting to feel a little bit taken for granted. You're starting to feel a little bit overwhelmed. Maybe a little bit of anxiety is creeping in. A coffee to get you going in the morning, a glass of wine to calm you down at night. And this carries on. And then you start thinking, hang on a minute, I haven't got a life anymore. This job is too much. There's too much pressure. I know. I'm going to change my job. I'm going to get a similar job somewhere else. That'll make it better. And so you get a new job. You're already a bit tired. You start the new job and you pour everything into it and you're over delivering. You're taking responsibility for everything. Over time, you start to feel more and more tired. You start to feel overwhelmed. You start to feel taken for granted. And you think to yourself, I know, there's definitely something wrong with this job. I need to change jobs. And this goes on until eventually you come to a time where you either become unwell, or you decide to change career, or you decide you just can't do it anymore. The thing I learned about this was that it actually wasn't about the role. It was about how I was being in that role. It was the fact that I wasn't bringing in active recovery. Athletes know about active recovery, so why don't corporate leaders bring it in on the daily? I wasn't recovering sufficiently. I wasn't taking the breaks. Just that I was saying to myself, I'll just log in for an hour. I'll just catch up on my emails. It'll be fine. But guess what? You log in for an hour, you catch up on your email, and your mind is thinking about those emails on and on and on. You don't get a break between Friday and Monday. And so what I discovered was it was more about how I was being as a leader that was actually leading to that feeling drained, which was leading to that burnout. Now, I was a slow learner. And I went through burnout, came out the other side. And it's how I got into becoming a medical herbalist, actually. And it's one of the things that I work with patients with as well. But what I'm really encouraging you today is you don't need to wait till you're down that path. Take action now. Bring in that active recovery. Do those things that feel counterintuitive, because guess what? When you change as a leader, you begin responding to situations. You respond to your team. You bring this calmness into your team, and your team starts responding to that. And before you know it, the team that was a tricky team to manage becomes much calmer. And the reason they're becoming calmer isn't because they're getting better as a team. It's because your team, just like your family, just like your friends and your colleagues, they respond to how you are being. And so when you are in a position where you have the energy, where you have the recovery, that you can be the calmest leader in that room, that's what they respond to. And guess what? That's what leaders get rewarded for at work as well.
I love this, Tracy. This is so true. I can see myself like, oh, one more thing. But
I know, right?
yeah, I love it. So tell us, without going too deep, because we'll have more conversation like this. So what is your methodology? What methodology did you bring to the world so that you can support women leaders who want to keep thriving at what they always dreamed of, being as a leader? Tell us about your methodology, and then maybe share with us one or two shifts that we could be doing.
Yeah, I love this. So in terms of my methodology, so I have an overarching framework, but I meet people where they're at, because sometimes people need a little bit of herbal support. Sometimes they need a little bit of identity elevation in the get-go. But essentially, we're looking at three pillars. We're looking at clear, curate, and elevate. So what we're doing first up is we're getting in touch with who we want to be. How do I want to feel most of the day when I'm at work, when I'm at home? What's my big dream? What is all this for? Where am I going to? Because often it's about making sure that that corporate ladder is against the right building, right? And so we get really clear on who we are as a person. How do I want to be as a leader? What sort of experiences do I want to curate in my life? The next thing we're going to do is look after your body, because your body is actually the driving force. I know a lot of us think it's our mind, but actually our mind is responding to the signals that our body is giving us. I was reading some really interesting research the other day where they're talking about how thoughts are creating a chemical cascade in your body, and your body is responding to that. Now, what happens when we're in a high stress environment is we're in survival mode. We're creating all that gorgeous adrenaline and cortisol, and our body starts to think that's normal. And so what happens is when you shift into something where you're feeling a little bit calmer, your body feels a bit uncomfortable, because it's like, hey, excuse me, where's all the adrenaline that I was used to? What, you want me to actually heal my body and recover and relax? Well, I didn't get the memo about that. So, we're going through that process of sort of rebalancing and recalibrating. And a lot of that is through active recovery, It's through looking at the thoughts that we're feeding our body and the chemical cascade that is triggering in your body, and what you can do to regulate your nervous system. And this is a game changer. Like, for example, I was with a client the other week, and we did some nervous system regulation. She was going into a meeting with like a big conversation that she was nervous about, right? She came out of that meeting with the outcome she wanted because she had a plan. She knew what her vision was. She knew how she wanted to feel. And more importantly, she was making sure that her nervous system was regulated, because the people in that meeting respond to how you're being in your nervous system. So this is a lot of what we're doing. And then the other thing we do is we look at your skills as a leader. Are you ready to elevate your leadership skills? We take a look at that and we see what else can we do so that you can be the leader that you were born to be.
Love it. So if there is one shift you want to invite us to embrace, what is the number one, I would say, and why do we need this one? And maybe if you can share, how do people get it wrong sometimes, maybe around, because we think that we're going that way, but it's not the right way to do it so that it's really effective.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I had to choose just one shift, I'm going to go with, that time when you're up against it, you've got the deadlines, you've got the multiple decisions happening in your environment, you're at your laptop. And when we're in those sorts of environments, what happens is we tend to sit with our chin jutting out, leaning into our laptop. We're in survival mode, so the adrenaline's full force, and we're just dialed into what's happening on that screen. And we become so focused on that we forget to move. And then you're like, oh, hang on, 5 hours has gone past and I haven't been to the loo and I haven't had a drink and I haven't had anything to eat. And now I'm starting to get a little hangry and I'm starting to get a little cranky. So here's what I'm inviting you to do. First of all, let's adjust our posture. So take that chin back. Make that spine nice and aligned. Now, when we're in survival mode, we tend to breathe faster and we tend to breathe in the upper lobes of our lungs. So what I'm inviting you to do is just take a breath. And I'm inviting you to take that breath so that it goes all the way down. Your belly expands. It's okay. No one can see your belly. You're in front of your laptop. Okay. So you're taking that nice, slow, deep breath in. You can count if you like. So breathe in, nice and slow. Start with 4 counts. Hold it for 4 counts. Release that breath for the count of 4. Hold it for a count of 4. Just keep on doing this and notice how you're feeling as you do it. If you're doing it and you're not feeling calmer, you need to slow down your breath. Now, in case you're thinking, well, I don't know, that's not really going to make much difference. That's like just, I don't know, mumbo jumbo woo-woo stuff. The Navy SEALs use the box breath to help them keep calm in pressured situations. So if a box breath works for the Navy SEALs, let's bring it into the corporate workplace.
I love it. That's so good. I didn't know that. That's
it's cool, eh?
I know.
It's like, I'm being Navy SEAL right now.
Well, it can feel like this sometimes at work, right?
Yeah,
I love
absolutely.
it. Okay. So that's your shift number 1. So it's really making a new perspective and using your breath. There is some activity going on in your neighborhood.
Yes, it's like, pay attention. Here comes the siren.
What is the second shift you would like to share with us? Something that is really needed, that maybe some people get wrong as well. So how can we help shift that?
So the second shift that I'm going to talk about it's also really easy to implement. And this is the ability to take yourself away from your environment. So there's so much research at the moment, in particular, about the health benefits of forest bathing, going for a walk in somewhere green. Now, we can apply this to our Monday to Friday as well, right? So I'm not talking about going on the big hike, although that would be great. So when you're at work and it's lunchtime and you're tempted to just rush out, grab that sandwich, stick back in front of your computer and jam it into your face, here's what I'm inviting you to do. Take a walk. Take a walk and find a park, find somewhere green, and stop. And just allow that greenness to touch you. I'm not talking about, the quick path through on your way to somewhere else. I'm talking about the meander. So walking through that park, noticing the beautiful flowers. Yes, I am that person that stops in the path to admire a beautiful flower. It's the herbalist in me. I can't help it. So just take that moment and just allow yourself to be touched by nature and breathe. Do the breathing that we talked about, or just simply breathing all the way into your belly and just feel yourself relax. Now, the reason why we do this is not just because of the health benefits of being nature. The other reason why we're doing this is because part of active recovery is about physically removing yourself from the stressor. It's a biological thing. So when you take yourself out of the office, away from your laptop, away from your team, and you take yourself into an environment that looks very different, your brain is going to notice that. And it creates space from whatever you're perceiving the problem to be. So this is why taking yourself out, going for a walk in a place that's very different to where you're sitting in your 9 to 5 or 8 to 7, whichever way you do it, is really, really beneficial. You'll come back feeling refreshed. You'll come back feeling focused. You'll come back feeling more creative.
Awesome. And so I know we just have a few minutes here, Tracy, but that's amazing. 2 shifts that you can start to implement for sure. There is a gap, right? Like there is that, and then there is like, how do I, have a comfortable conversation with my team? How do you use all those shifts that you talk to? And we're not gonna go deep on that today. But I know that that's the reason why you created a webinar coming up, so that you can bring that to, okay, how do you use the mind and body work into your activities at the office, where you have, as you were saying, people who are having a difficult conversation or a large meeting that you are a little anxious about, or all the things, the politics in your environment. How do you deal with all of this and go home at night and feel that you still have energy to do what you want to do, right? So tell us more about how we can learn more from you in the next few weeks.
Sure, thank you. So I've got a webinar coming up. It's on the 25th of April, New Zealand time. So I think Eastern time, that's the 24th, isn't it, Angelique?
We said 27th. The day before is the 26th, right?
So we're the 25th in New Zealand, and Angelique is in Eastern time, and she's the 24th. So
let me find exactly. It says April 28th at 10 a.m. your time, Tracy, New Zealand.
No, it's on the 25th of April, sweetie.
Oh my God, we need to change this right now. 2-5. 2-5 and then 2-4 then.
Here we go.
All right. Everything is in the comments anyway, so don't.
Yeah. So New Zealand time, it's 10 a.m. on the 25th of April. Eastern time, it's the 24th of April in the afternoon, we'll call it, shall we? It's a webinar. It's called Feel Better, Lead Better. And I'm going to be sharing with you some really simple things you can do to feel better within yourself and to take the step towards recovering from burnout. Long before it happens, you don't need to go down that path. I'm also going to be showing you how, by feeling better within yourself, you get to lead better and your team will respond to that. So if you're interested in that, and I really hope you'll join me, please send me a DM, because I'd love to tell you all about it. And we're also going to put the link to that particular sign up page in the comments below as well.
Awesome. So let's recap the 2 shifts. Before you go to the webinar, you're going to practice already. So let's shift number 1. I'll let you recap. Breathe. And shift number 2, extract yourself from the scene so that you can go back to the scene with an inspired response to whatever craziness is happening at the office that day.
Feeling refreshed and rejuvenated and ready to go.
Well, Tracy, I'm going to let you wrap up everything. Do you have anything else you want to share with us?
I think we're good. I just want to reach out to you and say, hey, thank you for listening. I know your time is precious, and I really appreciate that. And I just want to send you lots of love, lots of peace, and lots of calmness in your day to day.
See you next time.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening to today's podcast. Can I ask you a favor?
If our conversation spoke to you today, could you please take a moment to leave a 5-star review? Your review will help people discover this podcast, and together we can create a world where there's even more love and more laughter. And if you want to hear more from the Project Joyful podcast, just click the subscribe button. Bye for now.